I'm singer-songwriter Coke Ross, and I recently moved from my longtime home in Florida to Southern California. When it was time to move, we packed up all our belongings in a rental truck and I set off across the country with my dear friend Jeff. Jeff is a really impressive guy on lots of levels, but he's also one hell of a driver and a very good friend. So I was fortunate he agreed to make the journey with me. That said, I sweetened the deal by promising to visit as many great guitar stores as we could while crossing the country, and take him on a docent guided tour of the Petersen Automotive Museum in Los Angeles once we arrived. So, I plotted a course from one coast to another, and we embarked upon our quest. Originally, prior to the trip, I contacted music stores across Florida, southern Georgia, all the way through to Texas, and negotiated potential trades for some instruments, including some banjos. Sadly, because we left on a late Saturday evening, all the places I had made plans to visit were closed. It was an inauspicious beginning to this journey. We hit a few guitar centers along the way, but quickly realized that if you're not in a major city, they're all pretty much the same. So we decided to keep on driving until we could hit the first independent store that was open during regular business hours. That ended up being Space Tone Music in San Antonio, Texas. Space Tone is a truly amazing shop with a huge selection of vintage and new instruments that run the gamut from beginner's gear to pro gear of every level. We talked to them for several hours. I traded a couple of guitars, but no banjos. And Jeff picked up a fantastic Taylor nylon string acoustic. It was a great place and I'd go back to buy from them anytime. By the way, I heard a lot of great banjo jokes on our journey across the country, but the best one came from Space Tone. What's the difference between a banjo and an onion? Nobody cries when you cut a banjo in half. No love for the banjo. We visited another guitar store in San Antonio, Heart's Home Acoustics, that was beautiful and had a fine selection of acoustics, but they too were not interested in trading banjos, so we moved on. From Space Tone, we went through West Texas and the southwest of the United States. Because of timing and traffic, our ability to visit guitar stores in New Mexico and Arizona was quashed. But because of a change in the time frame as our new digs in California weren't ready yet, we decided to head north and go to Las Vegas to hit some legendary guitar stores. The first being Six Gun Guitars. They were a really great shop with a fantastic inventory of beautiful guitars, and they were open to trades, including banjos. So I walked away with a beautiful Paul Reed Smith McCarty 594. Thanks, Six Gun Guitars. After Six Gun, we checked into the Excalibur Hotel, and then we headed down to the Strip. We ended up at the Hard Rock Cafe just to see more guitars. The following morning, we went off in search of Vegas guitar stores and found J&S Guitars, which had some interesting ESPs, particularly a really cool Texas Chainsaw Massacre guitar. Check out the meat hooks for fret markers. From there, we went to Roman Guitars, which was a really unusual place. It makes all kinds of beautiful guitars and some familiar production styles. We spent so much time looking at guitar stores in Vegas that even though we were planning on getting back on the road earlier in the day, we ended up eating dinner at Top O'Binions in the evening and walking along Fremont Street at night. Side note, I was walking around with Jeff on Fremont Street looking at all the cool sights, and then suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something funky going on. Jeff was being kissed by some strange woman. It was literally a matter of seconds before where I had looked over to say something to him, and then looked back, and there was a woman kissing him. I guess what happens in Vegas. We left Las Vegas at 10 o'clock at night. We ended up driving all the way to Barstow, California. The next morning, we realized it was only a matter of hours before we would be at what we considered a true highlight of visiting guitar stores, Norman's Rare Guitars. I first heard about Norman's Rare Guitars when I saw the film Spinal Tap. Nigel Tufnell had a Norm's t-shirt on in the film. Ever since then, it has been a legendary guitar store in my mind. But not just mine. Jason Segel wore a Norman shirt in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and it's where professional guitarists all go to pay their respects and share their reverence for this institution. I have a soft spot for Django Reinhardt and French Gypsy Jazz, and in all the thousands of guitars and all the stores that we saw crossing the country, not one of them had a single Gitane or a Selmer McCaffrey style guitar, and then I saw it hanging in the top right-hand corner of the store. I could not contain myself. I think Norm saw that and took pity on me. I heard him tell the salesperson, take $200 off for this guy. So yes, I actually got to meet Norm from Norman's Rare Guitars. He was the sweetest, nicest guy and treated us with the same respect he'd show for someone like Joe Bonamassa or any other professional. He told me my new Gypsy Jazz guitar's previous owner had been a top-notch session guitarist in LA that had recently died. He also shared that it had been a friend of his and that he was happy that it was going to someone that would really appreciate it. We drove from there to Los Angeles and proceeded to visit the Guitar Center at Sam Ash in Hollywood. They're literally across the street from each other, and on the same corner of Sam Ash is Mesa Boogie. The outside of the Guitar Center had a really cool mural painted along the front facade of the building, and a really great display of famous musicians' handprints in cement out front. I captured a few of them, including Steve Gadd, Cream, Queen, Earth, Wind & Fire, Buddy Guy, and Rush. Being the flagship store for Guitar Center, it was expected, but inside the place was jam-packed with all manner of guitar goodness. They had a huge wall filled with an array of vintage and new instruments that was truly impressive. It was, by far, the coolest Guitar Center we had seen in the entire country. The Sam Ash in Hollywood across the street didn't offer the same wow factor that Guitar Center had. Jeff stayed long enough to help us get situated here in Ventura. He's a prince amongst men, and I'm blessed to have him as a friend. The extra few days here in Ventura did give us the opportunity to go to yet another guitar store, a store here in town called Guitar 48. I'll produce a story on Guitar 48 fairly soon, as I feel they represent the mom and pop store perfectly, and they should be treasured. As promised, I took Jeff down to Los Angeles to visit the Petersen Automotive Museum. The Petersen did not disappoint. We saw the whole museum and then went on a docent-led tour of the vault at the end of the day. All in all, it was a truly memorable journey with a great friend traveling across this wonderful country. It was an education. I learned that there are still a host of really great guitar stores that still have a welcoming vibe for both the aspiring musician and pro alike. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and I'll treasure the memories. Plus, I picked up a couple guitars and said goodbye to my banjos, too. I hope you enjoyed the tale of our quest. If you like this video, please check out my other stuff, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for updates on music releases at my website, cokeross.com. Thanks for watching.